Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a cross between a naan bread and a chapati. It depends on the flour you're using. The flour I'm going to use is this stuff, which is sort of a wholemeal. It's actually Indian flour. Not that it makes much difference. I've used self-raising and I've used wholemeal and I've used plain and bread flour. They all give much the same sort of thing. You just don't want to fry any of it. I'm going to use 500 grams of that, and I'm going to use some butter, 130 grams ish, 125 grams maybe, and I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of yogurt, and I'm going to use a tablespoon of honey. Okay, that's the flour in there. It doesn't need to be sieved. As I said, it's more or less wholemeal. If you sieve it, you'll find bits in it, which is why I think it's just more or less wholemeal. I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of this. It's just a natural. Actually, it shouldn't be bio for me. That's bad. I've got a liver transplant. I shouldn't have bio yogurt. That was a mistake. I'm going to use this, which is, it is ghee, but it is on butter, so any butter or butter substitute would do. I'm going to do 125, 130 milligrams of that. Doesn't really matter. And the other one I'm going to put in, pure honey. It can be runny honey or it can be set. A tablespoon of that will add a bit of sweetness to it. You don't need to add that if you don't want to. I'm not putting salt in it. Some people will put a teaspoon of salt. I don't, because salt's not good for you. Okay, that's the butter added in. It's come straight out of the fridge, so it's kind of hard. There's actually 134 grams there, because I couldn't get it down to where I wanted it to be. But that's approximately what I want. Now I'm going to add the 2 tablespoons of the yogurt. Then I'm going to mix it together. Then afterwards I'm going to add the water. I'll tell you how much water I'm going to add once I finish it off. Okay, as well as that, I'm going to add in about a teaspoonful of yeast. I don't think the yeast is actually necessary. I just add in a teaspoonful of yeast anyway. I'm actually going to freeze this afterwards, so that's why I don't think the yeast is necessary. It will raise it up a little bit, and I feel it makes that little bit of difference to the end product. Okay, now what I've done is I've scraped all of the yogurt off of the spoon. Not that it makes that much difference, but I've done that. Now the butter's in there. I'm going to just squeeze it all together until the butter forms with the flour sort of a breadcrumby effect. Also adds the little bit of yogurt in there as well, and the small amount of yeast. I'm going to do that to all of them until it's like that. Once it's done like that, then I'm going to add the water to turn it into the consistency that I want. Okay, that's it more or less breadcrumbed. You need to make sure though that you go right down to the bottom of the bowl and turn it over, because you might have some butter still down there, or some flour that's not been put through. It's all got to be the same colour, so when you dig your fingers into it, you don't get bits coming out that are all white. Yeah, that's okay. Now I'm going to add the honey in the water. The water's going to be boiling, and that's what I'm going to put the honey into. The boiling water will go into there as well. Okay, that's the water poured in with the honey. It needs to be hot so you'll melt the honey. And gosh, I can't see on that. That's 400 and just over 400 millilitres. I can't get it to focus. But it's 400 millilitres hot water so that it melts the honey. Now I'm going to mix it together. You need to let it cool down a bit, obviously, first, depending on how your tolerance for boiling water is with your hand in it. I'm going to use a fork to mix it in, not going to use my hands initially. There's a well in there so that I can put the water in. I'm not going to pour all the water in at one go. I'm just going to put in some of the water and honey. Then I'm going to mix that in, then I'm going to put the rest in. Okay, that's it finished. It's more like a cake mixture at the moment, so my guess is that that's needs a little bit more flour in it, but I don't want it to be solid and doughy and kneading it. What I want is it to be a solid, a soft mixture, because I'm going to put it into bags and freeze it. But I'm going to leave it now for a couple of hours, see what it's like. If it's still soft, really soft, then I'll just start adding flour to it, a tablespoon at a time. This might want 5 or 6 tablespoons of flour adding to it to bring it up to the consistency that I want. But as I said, I don't really want it to be too hard. I want it to be soft, malleable like this, so I can put it in the freezer. When it comes out, it's going to be soft anyway, and then I'll knead it a little bit, don't need much, and put it in the frying pan. Not in the frying pan, put it in, actually yeah, in the frying pan, but with no fat. You can also do it in the oven as well. Here's one that I did earlier. This has been frozen, it will come out. This one's already been kneaded, and it'll be broken in half, and that will make 2 breads. You don't really need to worry about how thin the bread is, because it's got that little bit of yeast in it, it does rise a little bit. So I'll make it kind of thin. If you roll it into about 1/2 centimetre, that would be adequate. I try and get them a little bit less than that, but 1/2 centimetre will give you a quite thick naan bread. And we'll see what it's like. Okay, that's what it looks like with another 2 tablespoons full of flour added. Add them 2 at a time. I'll add another 2. Okay, that's what it looks like with 4 tablespoons. Another 2 tablespoons, and I can knead that if I want, or just freeze it. Okay, that's what it looks like with 6 tablespoons full of flour. You can see it's springy. Now when you knead that, you need to add flour to it, bit at a time, just so it doesn't stick to your hand. That's all you're going to do. If I tip this out into a bowl onto this tabletop glass, I would sprinkle flour on the bottom, flour on the top, knead it together, then leave it for a while and go back to it again. I find that when I'm kneading things like this, or bread, I knead it 50 times. Better than counting minutes, because stronger people can knead faster than older people. So 50 times of getting your dough, turning it over so that it's half on top of half, and pushing it down, that's 1 knead. Then turning it around, folding it over again, and keeping on doing that 50 times. I don't necessarily do all 50 times at once. After about 10 times, you probably need to add a little bit more flour, turn it round, do the same again until it's been done 50 times. Then you just leave it to stand. Then it's ready to cook, or freeze and take out and cook. I'm going to cook one of these and one of the ones which is pre-cooked later on, and hopefully you'll be able to see a difference if there is any difference. Okay, that's the dough being left for a few hours with a plastic bag like that, but bigger. That's one that's been frozen, and then it retains the mark if you push it in. I'm going to split that into various bits. I'm going to cook a piece of that, and I'm going to cook this, and then I'm hopefully going to show you the baked up and so it doesn't look any different pre-cooked, pre-frozen to not frozen. Okay, that shows 4. Those 2 are the ones which were frozen. These 2 are the ones which were new. They don't need as much flour on these because they're brand new and they're still kind of tough. Whereas these ones, although they're tough now, because they've been defrosted for 2 or 3 days, they're wet when they come out, a little bit damp, so you need to put quite a bit of flour on those. You don't really want to do more than that for each one, depending how big you want to roll them out onto. But they're going to go into my saucepan, which is that size, in there, from your hand going in there, and that's big enough. So I'm going to do the first one 1/2 centimetre. Okay, that's what it looks like when it's rolled to about half a centimetre or less, maybe a quarter centimetre. It's over a hand, and that gives you an idea of how thick it is. The other ones are going to be much thinner than that. Okay, that's what it looks like when it's starting to cook. You can see air bubbles starting to come there. Now I'm going to turn it over. Yeah, and yeah, the pan is hot, and I can do that with my fingers. I wouldn't advise you to do that. When it's cooked, I'll show you how thick it is. It will be thicker than it was before. This is the next one. I'm limited to how much I can actually do by the rolling of how close you can get to that side and that side. Then you turn it round and roll it again. But this one is not that much thinner than the other one, but I'm gonna roll it a little bit thinner now. What it does is it shrinks back in as you roll it out. Well, I thought I saw it sink on the camera there. It shrinks back in again. So I'm now going to roll it a little bit more so it comes out closer to the edges. It's close to that edge anyway. Long way off for that one. I'm going to make it a bit bigger, but I can only roll it so far because it's got to fit in the pan. It can go around the upside of the pan, but it doesn't want to be too high. Okay, that's the final thickness that I'm going to do this one. And now you can see it's much thinner on the end. The other one, the one that I've just cooked, that's how thick it is. So it's actually thickened up a bit. See how this one is when it's cooked. That's the other one cooking in the pan now. It did shrink a little bit in the pan, but it's still bigger than the first one I put in there. I'm limited to how round they can be by how big they're going to fit into the pan. You don't want them really coming up much past the edge, although you can do that when you turn it over, it'll flatten down again. You don't want them coming up halfway up the pan. So that's actually bubbled up quite a bit. The other one, this one is one of the ones which was done from the new dough. Less dough this time, so it's a smaller one, but that's fine. This is going to rise up much the same as the other one. Now, never showed you the thickness of this. They're approximately the same size. That's how thick it is. That's what it looks like in the pan. If you get bits around the edge which stick together, then just push them down a little bit if you can, and they'll be fine when you turn it over. Get holes in it, that's a problem. You can add, if you want to, before you get to this stage, cumin seeds, poppy seeds, any type of seed you want in the dough before you actually get it to this stage. You can also put them in now if you forget, and sprinkle them on, push them down with your fingers a little bit, and then turn it over and do the same on the other side. Most of them will actually stick to it, but it's better if they're in the dough before you start. You can also add cinnamon before they start. You can see that's boiling up quite nicely now, bubbling up. Probably a bit more than the other because it's fresh dough, but it won't make much difference. I'm going to turn that over in a second. There we go, there it's turned over. You can see it's actually starting to come up quite a lot. In the middle of that, the air's pushing out. It does that more in the ones which are new rather than the ones which are frozen. You can push it down, get the air out. I wouldn't advise you to do what I'm doing. I can take a lot of heat on my fingers. Do it with an implement. Don't do it with your fingers. And that's probably cooked. I now need to do the last one. Okay, something I didn't show you. This is the last one. When they're in the little round stage, I push it down with my hand, turn it around and push it again, so it's still more or less circular. I get it to the stage where I can now start to use the rolling pin on it. It's easier to do it like that than use the rolling pin because it will move my glass around, but that's a good way to get it to a smaller size. Okay, the last one is cooking now. You'll see how warm they are. They're going to be flexible, quite nice. That was the first one of the new dough. This is the old stuff. It's perfectly flexible. Bigger than that, but it looks okay. And that was the first one I did on the plate, and this steaming. As you can see, I'm not going to see the fourth one because that's still cooking.